Have you ever wondered why some people seem to act without remorse? Are they truly guiltless, or is guilt a societal construct? Welcome to a journey into the mind of Albert Camus, the French philosopher who dared to challenge our traditional understanding of guilt. Camus, an existentialist, viewed guilt not as an inherent moral consequence, but as a psychological construct imposed by society. Now, this might be a hard pill to swallow for some, but let's mull over it. We are born into a world filled with rules and regulations, norms and values, and we learn to feel guilty when we transgress these societal boundaries. But what if these boundaries did not exist? Would guilt still have a place in our lives? Camus introduces us to a fascinating archetype, the absurd man. The absurd man rejects conventional morality, navigating the world with a sense of determination and freedom unburdened by guilt. He views the universe as indifferent to human actions, a vast expanse of cosmic chaos that doesn't care whether we act right or wrong. This perspective is revolutionary. It suggests that our moral compass is not a divine gift, but a human-made framework designed to impose order on the chaos of existence. The absurd man, by rejecting this framework, effectively liberates himself from the shackles of guilt. He can act decisively without the fear of moral retribution, for he understands that morality is purely human, not cosmic. But this liberation comes with a cost. By acting without guilt, the absurd man risks losing out on deeper human experiences such as love and meaning. It's a fascinating conundrum that begs the question, is guilt a hindrance or a necessary part of our human experience? But how does this theory hold up when we look at some of history's most ruthless figures? Let's dive in. Genghis Khan, Mao Zedong, Catherine the Great. History is rife with powerful individuals who have acted without apparent guilt. As we delve into the annals of history, we see these figures, their actions marked by ruthlessness and a striking absence of remorse. They strode boldly, unencumbered by the weight of guilt that holds many of us back. They built empires, shaped nations, and left indelible marks on the canvas of time. Genghis Khan, for instance, carved a path through continents with his mighty horde. His actions often brutal, his conquests merciless. Yet he was unapologetic, seemingly immune to the pangs of guilt such actions might stir in others. He sought power and obtained it, unfettered by the shackles of remorse. And then we have Mao Zedong, a man who reshaped an entire nation under his vision, even if it meant causing the deaths of millions. His great leap forward was a leap into tragedy for many, but Mao, it seemed, was untroubled by guilt. He saw a goal, a vision for his country, and he pursued it relentlessly. Catherine the Great, a woman in a world of men, ruled Russia with an iron fist. Accusations of ruthlessness and cruelty marked her reign. But did guilt ever touch her? History suggests otherwise. She was a woman of power, unyielding and unapologetic. These figures and many others illustrate a potent argument. Guilt can be a hindrance to decisive action. It can limit our choices, slow our progress, and dim our ambitions. But these individuals, seemingly free of guilt, acted decisively, often ruthlessly, to achieve their goals. But what does this mean for the rest of us? Does feeling guilt make us weaker, or is there a deeper cost to a life without guilt? As we journey further into this exploration, we must question the role of guilt in our lives. Does it truly hinder us, or does it perhaps serve a deeper purpose? And what might we lose in our pursuit of power if we cast guilt aside? As we peel back the layers of this existential riddle, we invite you to ponder these questions. We often see guilt as a moral compass, but could it also be a psychological barrier preventing us from reaching our full potential? Let's delve into this intriguing question. From a psychological standpoint, guilt can be seen as a hindrance. It's a complex emotion that often leads to self-doubt and hesitation, potentially halting us in our tracks when we're faced with making tough decisions. So could the absence of guilt be the key to adaptability and ambition? Consider this. Those who lack guilt often possess a certain level of fearlessness. They're not plagued by the what-ifs and should-I-haves that so often tie the rest of us in knots. They make choices, take risks, and move forward without looking back. It's a bold, decisive way of living that many of us might envy. But let's not forget that guilt has its roots in empathy, in our ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's a check on our actions, a reminder to consider the impact we have on the world around us. It's what makes us human. So what happens when we remove this emotional check? Can we still function as empathetic, caring individuals, or do we risk becoming cold, ruthless, and disconnected from our humanity? Albert Camus, the French philosopher and author, argued that guilt is a construct of society, a tool to keep us in line, but isn't it also a part of our biological wiring, a mechanism for survival in a social species? It's clear that guilt can be a hindrance, a psychological barrier that limits our actions and perhaps our success. But it's also a part of what makes us human, a tether to our empathy and our compassion for others. The question then becomes, is it worth it? Is the potential for success worth the loss of these deeply human experiences? Or is there a middle ground, a way to navigate life without guilt while still retaining our humanity? However, a life devoid of guilt may not be as liberating as it seems. Power without guilt can lead to great success, but it also comes with its own set of challenges. A life unburdened by guilt can be liberating, allowing for decisive action and unfettered ambition. Yet this freedom often comes at a cost. The same ruthless determination that propels individuals to the heights of power can also isolate them, leaving them in the cold grip of loneliness. Unbound by societal norms and untroubled by remorse, these individuals may find themselves drifting in a sea of existential emptiness. The world around them becomes a chessboard where people are merely pieces to be maneuvered for personal gain. Yet, in this calculated game, they may find themselves devoid of the deeper human experiences that give life its rich tapestry of meaning. Love, empathy, connection. These are often casualties in the pursuit of power without guilt. In the grand scheme of the universe, they stand alone, their actions echoing into the indifferent void. It is also worth considering the biological factors that influence our capacity for guilt. For instance, sociopathy, a condition characterized by a lack of empathy and remorse, is thought to be influenced by both genetic and environmental factors. Individuals with this condition are often seen as being free from guilt, but does this freedom make them more successful? Or does it merely enable them to navigate the world with a different set of rules? Sociopathy raises a myriad of ethical questions. If guilt is a construct, as Camus suggests, and some are biologically predisposed to be guilt-free, does this absolve them of their actions? Or does it merely highlight the complexity of human nature and the blurred lines between morality and biology? So we've seen the potential benefits and drawbacks of a life without guilt. But where does this leave us? As we navigate this existential dilemma, we're left to question the role of guilt in our own lives. Is it a hindrance or a necessary aspect of our humanity? Is power without guilt truly liberating, or does it lead to a lonely existence devoid of meaning? These are questions that each of us must answer for ourselves as we strive to make sense of our place in this vast and indifferent universe. We've explored the concept of guilt from an existentialist perspective, but what does this mean for you and me? Guilt, as we've discussed, is not an inherent moral consequence, but a societal construct. It's a tool that shapes our actions and in many ways molds our character. The concept of guilt as a tool for control, as an illusion, challenges the traditional view of guilt as a virtuous emotion. This perspective, as put forth by Albert Camus, gives us a lens through which to view historical figures such as Genghis Khan and Catherine the Great. These figures, ruthless in their pursuit of power, seemingly acted without the burden of guilt, enabling decisive action. They thrived, but at what cost? Guilt, or the lack thereof, may enable decisive action, but it may also lead to a sense of existential emptiness. Power without guilt can breed loneliness. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, guilt can hinder us, preventing us from making bold choices. On the other hand, living a guiltless life may rob us of deeper human experiences. Guilt fosters deeper emotional experiences. It makes us question our actions, our motives, and ultimately our character. It brings a sense of morality, a sense of right and wrong into our lives. It makes us human. And while it may limit our success, it also brings depth to our lives. As we navigate through life, we are faced with the question of the role of guilt in our lives. Is it a self-imposed limitation that prevents success, or a necessary part of our humanity? Is it an obstacle to be overcome, or a compass guiding us towards a moral life? In the end, the role guilt plays in our lives is an individual journey. We are each tasked with defining right and wrong on our own terms. We are each tasked with finding the balance between ambition and morality, between power and guilt. The question remains, is guilt a self-imposed limitation or a necessary part of our humanity?